Well, I haven't done a live stream in a while, and I'm not sure if when this is published, it's gonna end up being flipped, you know? Because I hate that. Like, if I had text on my shirt, it would look backwards to you, is what I'm wondering. Um, I hate that. That's just awful. So, yeah, I hope that's not the case. That's what happened the last time I did a live stream. I haven't done a live stream in a long time. I think I might have done one on my other channel, Philosophical Psychology. Um, but that channel, I haven't been active on it much either. I mainly just I've had a weird year. So I think that's actually what I titled this live stream. What I've learned so far this year. Because I just want to catch up a little bit. So I have no idea if anybody cares about me anymore. Not that anybody ever did in the first place. I mean, I never really have been known for a big audience. I have like one fan and a stalker. Like literally, I have this lady named Cheryl who always comments on all my stuff, and then this other guy who has a million fake accounts and always finds me no matter how many times I block him and always says creepy, weird shit. And those are my two fans. So, but at least Cheryl is nice. Um, anyway, I have a ton of friends. I just nobody watches my YouTube channel. Nobody cares. And in fairness, there hasn't been anything to watch as of late. I kind of lost my enthusiasm for the channel a while back, and I've had a very strange year. Um, I thought I met the love of my life. I got engaged, and then I moved in with him, and then I ended up getting chased out of the house with a loaded gun. So that ended great. um, yeah, so I'm back where I started. I live with my family, my grandparents, my aunt, my mom. Um, just the same situation I was in last year and the year before, and you know, pretty much since like 2020. Um, but anyway, yeah, it's very strange, strange year. So many things happened, but I want to talk not about what happened. I want to talk about what I've learned, because that's what's actually interesting. So, I've been thinking a lot lately about just psychology and 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 philosophy, the usual. I mean, I literally have a channel called Philosophical Psychology, but I wanted to um, I wanted to break down some of the lessons that I have to take away from my very recent experiences. Um, so the main thing that I learned is that it is sometimes okay to just choose yourself. That's actually a really bad way to put it. I'm sorry. I was having a little bit of an ADHD moment. I keep focusing on like the way I'm sitting and I'm just not. I'm sorry. I'm not fully with it right now. Um it's so weird to be back on YouTube. And nobody's watching this live, so I'm talking to just people who watch the replay. Um but Yeah, I want to get back into this. I like this little setup I have here. I've got a bench. I've got, I've got a nice setup. I get to sit down on a little chair. Although I'm not leaning back. I don't think that would really work well anyway. I kind of like leaning forward. Um, I'm gonna have to wear my glasses more often. I have bangs. I didn't have bangs the last time I made a video. I was trying to grow bangs because I think my last video was like 5 months ago, but I actually have bangs now and I like them. I'm happy with it. I always wanted bangs, but I never had the patience for it. And in order to get them to look like this, I have to use a flat iron, but I don't do that every day, so they won't always look like this. The reason they look like this right now is because I just got a haircut earlier today, and she just did the flat iron thing, so I'm happy with the way my hair looks right now, which is why I felt confident enough to get on and do a video. Um, but yeah, so I just gave you terrible advice. I'm so sorry. My brain glitched in that moment. What I was trying to say is that, and let me actually stop before I speak and make sure this is what I'm actually trying to say, because I'm a little bit like overwhelmed, I think, right now. Um, the biggest lesson that I've learned this year, is that what I was gonna say? Okay. It's that you are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to have empathy for other people and acknowledge that other people make mistakes. But it's not about them. It's always going to be about you at the end of the day. And you can spend your whole life digging into the psychology of, why do people do things like this? Why do people do that? Why do people do this? Can they be helped? Can we help them? Can we start a program? Hey, bro. Oh, hey, fake account. I forgot. There's another person who tunes in sometimes. That's another fan. Um, um, I was mentioning that I only had two fans, and I mentioned Cheryl and my stalker, uh, the one who comes in with a million different, fake names and stuff. Thanks. He said nice haircut. But I forgot there's also an account called Fake Account who regularly pops up. I guess there's a couple other regulars that I have. There's Aaron, you know. But anyway. So, um, we're Cheryl, yeah. Aaron, yeah. Those are the names that I listed. So I'm trying to remember my train of thought. Oh yeah, I haven't seen Wyatt in a while. I haven't. He hasn't popped up in my comments in a while. Um, eh. Wasn't there another? If you're thinking of Dave, he's the aforementioned stalker. That's not his real name. Yeah, it has been way too long. I haven't done this in like a year. It's been a ridiculously long time. Um, so you can spend. I just to wrap up the little. Someone wanted you to read Torah cards. I think you mean tarot cards. I don't do tarot, but I do regular psychic mediumship. Um, Please tell me that's a nail on the wall. Okay, it's a hook. I just in the reflection, I have extreme arachnophobia. Like if there was a spider down here, I'd be moving my setup to upstairs. Like it's that bad. Um, so anyway, I I was trying to pick like the biggest lesson that I've learned recently, and the way that I explained it is that you can spend all this time investing in other people, thinking, should we come up with a program to help people with this problem or that problem or whatever, and you can question how to help other people, but the truth is, not everyone is called to do that. Sometimes, as you're going through your own life and your own journey and doing your own thing, hey Aaron, um, you find in front of you an opportunity to help other people, but you're still your most important goal. You have to make sure that that stays that way. You can't become so invested in other people's lives that you forget who you are, because that is not what anybody's here to do. You have to stay in your lane. This is a lesson that I have learned before, obviously. I've talked about this before, and yet it is so much easier to talk about than to actually practice. And when you have experiences that you start to unlock different levels of understanding of that, even when you talk about it with a new weight and in a new way. Um, so today and yesterday, I've been thinking a lot about this book trilogy that I've had in my head for a long time. I'll give you a little bit of background. It started out as a random idea. Um, so the trilogy, the first one is called An Untold Story. The sequel is called The World Without, and the third one is called Catch Me Again. Um, and they all come with a backstory. They're going to be books. I'm going to write them as like novels, and then eventually work on getting some publishing, and you know, ultimately the goal is for these to be movies. And you know, I have a producer in mind, a company rather, that I would like to produce the movie. Um, and not sure if I want to say what I have in mind right now. Not sure if it matters. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I could just say it. Maybe I will slip and say it later on in this live stream. I don't know how long I'm gonna go, but for now, I don't feel like saying it. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna start by writing it, and I got the idea for the first one, An Untold Story. That it was season 5 of Once Upon a Time, the ABC TV series, was ending, and the send me the drafts, please. I don't have anything to send you. Well, I kind of do. I was writing a little something last night, but um, I would rather keep it to myself because I want to surprise people with the contents of this story. So I'm just going to explain the background of how I came up with them, not giving you anything too spoilery. I don't think spoilery is a word, but whatever. Um, so Once Upon a Time, season 5 finale. It's called An Untold Story. I liked that title, and it ain't. Yeah, I didn't think so. Well, for a while, ain't wasn't a word either. I think it was like added to the dictionary at some point, but it originally wasn't a word. There's something like that. Anyway, um, I liked the title An Untold Story. I had just written 3 movies, a trilogy called The Papa 1, 2, and 3. And I was on a roll. I was like 13, 14 years old, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a director. I'm gonna write movies, and I was on a kick. So these were about my grandpa. Very silly, crazy stories. Is garbage a word? Car garbage? Why would that be a word? I'm a little bit confused, but okay. Anyway, um, I came up with it in 2013. Oh, I've come up with a lot of words. I actually have a list of made up words, but I digress. Um, so I was on a roll, was writing these papa stories about my grandpa, very silly stories, and I was like, let me keep going. I wonder what else I can come up with. And I got this idea from an episode title of Once Upon a Time and the concept of the Babadook. Now, it bothers me when people mispronounce that title because it is very clearly Babadook. If it were Babadook, um, then that's how they would say it in the movie. And I know that they have Australian accents, but the one thing people usually say is Duke, Babadook. Now that is just completely wrong. Do you know why? Because it's supposed to rhyme with the word look. Do you say Luke? Oh, Luke over there. Absolutely not. You say look. So say Babadook. Eh. Um. Anyway, I never hear people pronounce that title correctly, and it drives me nuts. Literally in the movie, in the book, it says this was like the little rhyme from the magical, mysterious book that appeared that this mother's reading to her kid, and she doesn't know where it came from. This is how I got the idea for my story. Anyway, um, so she's reading this book, and it says if it's in a word or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook. And it ended up being this kind of beautiful, brilliant metaphor for like grief and the way that you can't just make it go away. If you try to ignore it, it'll consume you. But if you just tend to it every now and then, You can keep it healthy. So it's kind of a nice metaphor. I loved the movie. It was a good horror movie. But this concept of a woman finding a mysterious book, what I did was I said, okay, let's take this mother and her little boy, same dynamic as the movie, and she is going to read him a bedtime story, but from this book that she's always read. And one day, she finishes it, and he starts arguing with her. Now, I got this from an episode of the show Medium, um, because there were 3 books, I want to say, that this little girl Bridget was obsessed with, and she kept insisting that there was another one, and it was a psychic thing because Medium is was about psychics, and it turned out that the ghost of the author was telling her to write another Danielle book or something. And she kept arguing with her dad, going, "No, there's another one, there's another one." So I had that playing in my head, and I kind of, integrated that into the. Keep in mind, I'm like 13 or 14, so this what I'm giving you right now is not spoilers because this is nothing like the final product at all. This is just its origin. So I had that in my head, and this kid's like, "There's another chapter, mommy. There's another chapter in the book." So she sees it, and then much like in the Babadook, she's like, I don't want to read this in front of you because I don't know what this is. Did somebody break into my house and put this chapter in the book? Like, what happened? So she's freaked out, right? It's a horror movie. So she takes the book into the other room and reads it herself, very much like the Babadook. And eventually, it takes her on this journey. She realizes she's reading about her own past, her own childhood. And she's like, I don't remember these things happening. And then she's like, in this old room, and there's this magical mirror that she walks through, and she finds you know her father, and she like slits his throat or something, and there was all this shit, and it just it was, and then I couldn't continue it. I for some reason I got like 3 chapters in. I was like, I'll come back to it, and I forgot about it for a while. And then one day I came back to it, and we're gonna get into spoiler territory, so I'm gonna just cut this off here. Um, Basically, I listened to a song and got an idea for a music video, and just like that, it was born. I said, wait a minute, this reminds me a little bit of An Untold Story, but now it's not a horror movie, it's something completely different, and it just expanded. So, The World Without, the sequel, this this was, I had a boyfriend at the time. I was 16, and it was my first boyfriend, and he was sad. He was really mentally ill. I mean, if I'm being honest, he had some issues, and he lived in a different continent, not even a different country. We weren't going to meet in person practically, realistically. I wanted to someday, but I didn't know how or when or what the fuck, but I just I think it was like the way he looked. He had like the dark hair and the dark eyes and the pale skin. I have a type, okay? Um, but anyway, I was wanting to write about him, and I said, I'm gonna write a little story, a little love story. And it was meant to just be like a random cute, how you're like, I'm gonna write a love song for my boyfriend. It was like something stupid. But I ended up being like, all right, let's see, if I'm going to write a story, it's got to be at least somewhat good, even if it's just a quick little thing I threw together. So, what's a good title? And I'm like, well, like, blah, 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 blah. How about The World Without? And I'm like, and it could be a sequel to An Untold Story, and it could tie in like this, and then he could be this, and that could blah blah. And I just threw everything together, and I was like, before I knew it, I had an entire sequel on my hands, and it was not just a little project anymore. But I still wrote the whole thing in like a week, and then I sent it to him, and I don't think he even cared. I don't know if he read it. He didn't comment on it. Asshole. But then I knew that I wanted it to be a trilogy, because there was so much potential with what I had just unlocked in The World Without. And I didn't know what to call the third one. Originally, I had this idea of calling it Red into Blue, but there were a couple things I didn't like about that title. First of all, OCD, because there's some ambiguity on whether or not the word into should be a capital I or a lowercase I. And I don't like that, you know? I don't like if there's like, well, actually, it's unclear whether or not that word should have a capital letter. If I can avoid that, I do. So You know, I like my titles to look clean and direct, and that's just my preference. So I never liked that title, but there was also something about it that just didn't feel right. I mean, my OCD aside, it didn't fit with the other two titles. An Untold Story, The World Without, and Red into Blue? Like, it just didn't fit. So I was trying really hard for a while to think of a better title, but I would just refer to it as that, and I'd say it's a placeholder title, you know? And funny story, I had this one friend who loved that title and said he really did not want me to change it. He didn't like that I referred to it as like a placeholder title. He was like, you have to keep that because it's perfect. And I said, I don't like it. It's my story. I will think of something better, and I'm sure you'll like the title I come up with better. So one day, when I came up with the title Catch Me Again, it just clicked instantly. I said, that's it. That's what it's called. An Untold Story, The World Without, Catch Me Again. It fits. That's it. And it fit the vibe of the story. It unlocked even some new ideas. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And my friend hated it and he blocked me. And we got into this really long, insane argument because he literally blocked me over the title change. I couldn't believe. Um, I was like, Jesus Christ. This was 2018. I had just moved into this house. Um, and I just remember like where I had my furniture arranged at the time, just being in bed on the phone with him up all night arguing. And he was like, "Goodbye, I can't be your friend anymore." Like over a title. I could not like he was very emotionally volatile and immature. Um we're sort of still friends, like we hardly talk, but we didn't have like a falling out, you know. He's just sort of around. I have a lot of people that are just sort of around that I don't have a problem with them, but we don't like actively talk and connect. There's not like a fire, you know, in the friendship. You know what I mean? That's pretty rare for me to have like a fiery friendship with someone, but those friends stand out, and I love those people. Um, and so anyway, um, yeah, he obviously he didn't stay blocking me, but I couldn't believe like the extremes he went to over the title. He really didn't like it. I'm sorry, I didn't read your comment, Aaron. Let me see. He wasn't good enough for you or true friend. We were teenagers. It's fine. Um, I think it's funny, honestly. So so let down and so forgotten. You just taught me how to love. When I see your love is rotten. I don't know all the lyrics. I've had Marina, this artist that I like, she put out a deluxe version of her album that came out earlier this year. Today, came out today. And that one song, it's called How to Say Goodbye. 'Cause I realize I don't know all the lyrics, but it's been stuck in my head because that's among the four new bonus tracks. That one's my favorite easily. Um, but anyway, yeah, Marina, she's been around for a while. She was a big part of my teenage years. Um, I loved her when I was like going through kind of a phase of like discovering alternative music and get because before that I was in the pop scene, you know, like the people that you'd hear on the radio, you know, that would be in the movies and stuff, the people everybody knew about, like huge artists. Sia was my gateway into alternative music, and she is pop, but when I listened to Sia, I unlocked a new layer of pop. There was depth there, you know, that I hadn't seen before. And then I found Melanie Martinez, and from there I was like, okay, I think there might be a new genre of music that I like. And then Melanie referred me to Marina, and then through Melanie I found people comparing her to Lana Del Rey, and so I discovered Lana Del Rey, and then I just kept discovering a bunch of alternative artists who I still love today, but you know, they were huge in 2015 and like 2016. Her older songs are unique. Who? Oh, Sia? I've listened to her entire discography, but not multiple times. Maybe like once or twice. The only Sia music that I regularly like listen to would be her newer music. Um, I love This Is Acting, and I love A Thousand Forms of Fear. Um, music, just music. This, the songs from the movie and whatever. Um, and I haven't really listened to Reasonable Woman too many times, but oh, and her Christmas album, I love that. It's very good. A lot of fun. it's you know, she's very good. This Is Acting was my favorite album. It's so good, right? In the deluxe version, I hate that it's missing the Target exclusive bonus tracks. That because that sucks. Like, come on, she's she should have put those on streaming. Um, Fist Fighting a Sandstorm and Summer Rain. I put them on my channel, for what it's worth, so you can listen to them safely here in high quality because I don't fuck with low quality. I don't do, if I post something, it's up to my standards. So I want the Target version so badly. Yeah, I have it. Obviously, that's how I was able to upload them. Anyway, where is my train of thought? Where does it go? Yeah, so I was getting into Marina and randomly singing a song that was stuck in my head. Um, yeah, being a teenager was a lot of fun. I was talking about the story of like my friend hating the movie title. Um, so I've attempted several times to write these down, and over the years, this was like I said, 2018. Over the last however many years it's been, 7, I have been developing this trilogy in my head gradually. Every now and then I learn a lesson or have an experience, and I just say that is a new layer right there. And I feel like I am ready to get this in motion because I have the level of confidence in the first one. I still, The World Without and Catch Me Again need a lot of development work, but An Untold Story is ready. Like Dylan? Who is Dylan? I missed a comment. Summer Rain should have been the first song of This Is Acting. You mean the opening track, like instead of Bird Set Free? I don't know if I agree with that. And who is Dylan? I feel like I'm missing something. So let down and so forgotten. Sorry, stuck in my head. Your Psycho X? His name was Destin. But let's not talk about him. um so yeah. Anyway, yeah, I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream that I had an insane experience this year and did some things that I've never done before. And one of them involved being chased out of a house with a loaded gun. And, and I survived. Didn't get shot. I'm happy. I could have. But just goes to show you. Sometimes you just get lucky. So be careful. Be careful what you invest in. I'm single if you're down for long distance. Yeah, you and I have never had a romantic connection, though. Like, that would be completely weird and out of nowhere. And I also am really not looking for a relationship right now or long distance. I'm open to meeting people. I'm always open to that. But I'm not like, I have, I have no, after what I just experienced, the level of emotion that was unlocked, I can't settle for anything less than that. Like, my next partner is either going to make me feel as much or more. Because otherwise I would just be constantly comparing my next partner to the ex that chased me out of the house with a gun. And, that just doesn't seem fair. So I need to find somebody who makes me feel as excited as Destin did. And I just can't settle for less. And that'll be a while, I'm sure, because that shit got me so good that I thought it was once in a lifetime, which is why I was so afraid to let go, you know, because I was like, I'm never going to feel like this about anybody again. And how am I ever going to find someone else? You know, like, I'm not kidding. That relationship was magnetic, but also abusive. They can both be true at the same time. Because, you know, nothing is ever black and white. People love to label things, and everyone's experience, which is connecting back to what I was talking about at the beginning, it's about you and your experience in life being unique to you. And my experience can not be put into a category or have a label slapped onto it. It's my journey to figure out. And I'm going to stay on my journey regardless of who comes along with me. It's tragic leaving people behind. When you level up in life, when you evolve, and you can't take people with you because they're stuck and they want to take you down with them, that's terrifying because we don't want to leave people behind, but we have to. It's just life. And you hear that and you think, yeah, okay, I know. But then when push comes to shove, do you actually have it in you to leave them behind? You know, your answer says a lot about you, and not in a good or bad way, just like to help you learn about yourself way. So I've been learning a lot about myself and how I view people and relationships and my own life and myself. And yeah, I just I've just had such a crazy existence. From the moment I was born, I've always been so weirded out by life. Always been like, what the hell is going on here? What's wrong with people? And nothing's changed. I'm always confused by the weird shit that goes on in people's heads and the decisions people make. And yet I'm also always trying to connect to people and understand people and be able to vibe with people, you know? Because I love people and I love connecting with people. I don't like judging people. That's not something I do. I mean, if anything, I'm non-judgmental to a fault. Like, there are things people tell me that I probably should be judgmental about, but I'm just too lenient. I had this guy the other day who I had just met on Facebook. I mean, literally just met. We had spoken, exchanged like 5 words. The only thing that we knew, he didn't know anything about me. And the only thing I knew about him is that he likes eating ice because he's warm-blooded or something, which is weird. And then I was like, do you want to get to know each other? And he sent me the most disturbing trauma dump I have ever seen in my life. He was like listing things about himself, like his favorite colors, his favorite movies, and then he's like, and by the way, all these insanely horror movie horrible things happened to me in my childhood, and I don't even want to say some of it on here because it's that obnoxious. I don't even know if it's true. I mean, you like, it seemed so insane that it's like, is this person just making shit up for attention? And if it is true, then oh my god, you need like therapy is an understatement. You need to be in some sort of facility, like, because Jesus, that is not something that people just go through and recover from and like be like, I'm fine, you know. But then this is like sandwiched between a list of things he likes and a list of things he wants in a partner, and at the end he's like, also I have like all these mental disorders and suicidal tendencies and blah 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 and depression, and I'm like, help. um, so, you know, there are all sorts of like emotionally volatile people out there. um, I also have a stalker, sort of. eh, just a boundary violator, you know, at best, but bordering on being a stalker because I blocked him on one platform and he followed me over to another platform. By the way, totally unrelated from the trauma dump guy. This is a different person. Um, I know there's a lot. There's a lot of weird people that I run into, and they're all kind of nuts. I tend to attract those people, and the whole point is that I tend to be not judgmental enough. You know, like my first instinct reading that trauma dump was, "Oh my God, you poor thing." But after I had him in, I was like, ugh, what does that say about you that you would feel comfortable sharing that with me? Like lot of disturbing behavior. And that's the thing, is you have to make sure that you're not getting lost in feeling bad for people, right? I'm a good weird person. Well, I've known you to be a good person. You seem to have, some level of integrity. It's not that you're perfect. You've told me that you have made mistakes, but it's like, in general, in the way that you seem to function and think and operate, you seem to have integrity. You seem like a good person. You seem to have a heart. It's more than I can say for most people. A lot of people do not operate unless it benefits them. Literally sociopathic. Unfortunately, that seems to be true of my aforementioned ex, the one who I was engaged to and thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. No big deal, you know. He kind of behaves as if, it's me or nothing. Like, it has to be his way. He's very arrogant. He was always trying to bring me down and make me feel bad about myself. He hated how comfortable I was with myself. He hated that I was always right. And I hate to say that, but it's just true. I joke about it, but I'm not even joking. I literally am always right. Even when I'm wrong, because I can admit that I'm wrong. So, but I'm almost never wrong anyway, so I really can, I can say that. My memory also is like a calendar. I can tell you exactly when things happened, how they happened, in what order. If there is a single detail off, if you're trying to lie to me, I will catch it and I will point it out. And you will, if you're a manipulative liar or gaslighter, you'll go flipping around. You'll lose your mind trying to argue with me, but I will not bite, because when I know I'm right, I know I'm right. And he hated that about me. It wasn't just that. It was also that he wanted me to think that I was arrogant and that I speak from like an elevated place, even though I have no experience in life. And he has all this experience, 30 years of whatever he's been through, and I haven't been through anything. I'm a little child who's naive, and I've been living in a bubble, so I better just accept him as a mentor and listen to whatever he has to say. He was trying to isolate me and become my only source of information and make me doubt myself and hate myself, and he wanted me small and easy to manipulate. And I didn't go for that. He occasionally got me small in the moments where I was faced with the threat of the relationship ending, which to me was an existential threat. That was a fate worse than death, which is the only reason he was even able to string me along for that long. But I don't shrink easily. I don't buy shit like that easily. So it took him a while to even get me to the point as low as I was, but I eventually stood up for myself, and that's why he pulled a gun on me. Um, Something I did not think he was capable of. I gave him too much credit, but he was way too far gone. I couldn't have changed that. You can't help someone like that. He's in jail now, and I don't know when he's gonna get out, but it's probably gonna be a while. And it hurts. It honestly, I mean, in a lot of ways, I almost feel like a widow, because I loved him so much that, it felt like that was my life partner, and now he's gone. And I just have to spend the rest of my life without the love of my life and just be okay with that, which is kind of sad. But even if that's the case, widows fall in love again and remarry. There's people who, like they're like, I'll never love again, and that's valid to feel that way. It doesn't mean you won't meet somebody else or love again. It just means that's how you feel in that moment, and that's okay. Um, so I'm just going through phases right now, and I'm just trying to allow myself to feel whatever comes up and whatever it is I'm feeling. I never thought Zach was the love of my life. I hate to say that. I almost was going to say don't tell him I said that, but there was a reason that I never wanted to marry him. He was joking about the idea of getting married like a couple months after we met, and he was like, "I think your mom expects us to get married," and I was like, "No, no." Zach is like a brother to me now. At the time, what he was he he was someone sweet, someone I felt like I could trust, someone I knew wouldn't break my heart, but he was safe, and that's the best thing I could say about him. The truth is, he was safe, but he also didn't really light a fire in me. There wasn't passion. I wasn't excited about him in the way that I was with Destin. I don't think anybody has ever gotten me as excited as Destin. I mean, I've had exes and even crushes in the past that I've been very viscerally excited about. And they all kind of look similar. I definitely have a type, but Destin was something else, truly unique. And I really believed that he could have been like someone that I was supposed to spend my life with. And if that is the case, there's still the factor of free will. He just misused his free will. He had opportunities to grow and evolve past his pain, his trauma, his experiences, and he chose ego and fear and manipulation and control instead, where I was choosing growth and healing and love and light. And he saw how much I had because of the choices that I was making that were better than his choices. And he hated that I was a reminder of what he could have had if he were stronger. So he took it out on me instead of joining me, which I offered to him. He could have had the life that I had. I was willing to share my life with him, but he chose darkness. And that's tragic, but it is what it is. And it doesn't change anything because we are never incomplete without another person. You know, it's nice to have a life partner, but it's not a necessary component of existence. Not in the universe, not as a human. We don't need to be married or have partners. It's not necessary to always be dating. People get by being single. It's okay. You know, it's just that it's nice. And as far as that goes, you know, I was always taught from the psychic that, you know, I'm friends with Ivy, that we have like a handful of soulmate options, which is basically people that we're going to meet on our life path. And the one that we choose if we're going to get married and spend our life with one person, the one that we choose to settle down with, it still depends on their free will. They still have to choose to actually keep growing at the same pace and learning the lessons. And you have to be honest with yourself if they're not doing that. Um, and you have to be okay with letting them go. And that's not easy because you can over dramatize and romanticize someone and think like, I can't live without this person. With Destin, there were a lot of other factors. There was just a deep seated like neediness inside of me that I just really, really loved the idea of what we could be together. And I saw what was within him. I saw his untapped potential. I saw what I saw the possibilities that he wasn't seeing. And he has a lot of wasted potential, and it's tragic. But you know, I couldn't let go of that. I just wanted to keep him, and I wanted to keep the life that I had with him. I didn't want to have to come back to my family. There were a lot of things I really did not want to happen, and it was so much easier to just deny that he wasn't capable of loving me in the way that I loved him. And he didn't like that I loved myself, and I refuse to be in a relationship where I'm not allowed to love myself. Going forward, that's non-negotiable. Um, I also had an aversion to alcohol going into this relationship, and it's no longer an aversion. It is a deal breaker. I cannot be with someone who drinks ever. Like I need my next partner to hate alcohol as much as I do, because that shit triggers my like I can't even explain what it does to me. It's like existential. It's really bad, and he made it so much worse. Um, I'm gonna catch up on comments because you've been saying things, and I've been focusing more on what I was saying, than actually reading what you were saying. America has had a crazy year. I'm a good weird person. We've known each other for a year and a half. Yes, that's true. Are you sure you weren't dating the president? Destin hated Trump, so he would not be happy to hear that. But honestly, I mean, that's a valid comparison. Same. I knew that he was abusive. Oh, good for you. Only when you're in a cold shower. I forgot when you said that. I don't know what the context was. You also thought Zach was the love of your life. When's the slutty phase? What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, after 3 years, physically exited for sure. Listen to Sia play dumb. Okay, yeah, some of these comments, I unfortunately should have read them when you posted them, because reading them back now, I don't remember the context when you originally wrote them. But anyway, you know, I, regarding Zach, because I do want to wrap that up. I want to make sure I'm clear. When I found him, I did genuinely love him, and I do, but not in the same way that he loved me. Um, and it was I can't even explain to you how difficult that was to admit. When there's someone who you love so much that they're like family and you don't want to lose them, but you know that if you break up with them, you might lose them forever. It's it's heartbreak that would be easier to avoid if possible, and we tried. But then when I met Destin, I had no choice. I said, you know what? I can't pretend anymore that this is sustainable. And I was right. I did lose him. But now that I've broken up with well, Destin broke up with me. Let's be real here. He broke up with me um, because I cried in front of his mother after he did something cruel to me. Eh. Anyway, um, I thought that I had lost Zach, but after that happened, he came back into my life, and he he really, at this point, we just have a sibling dynamic. We act like we're brothers. He calls my mom his mom because he lost his actual mom a couple years ago, and my family is like a second family to him. So he's just around sometimes, and that's just the role that he has. And it's funny because I see him a little bit as like a little brother that I can pick on, but he's actually older than me, um, and he always points that out, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm taller, so. And I'm not tall. I'm literally like 5'6". The fact that I'm taller than Zach is just, I mean, it is what it is. Zach is a goofy little thing. Um, so anyway, I know, poor Zach, I know, but he's fine. You know, he gets by, and oh, you're 5'4"? Okay, well then you're the same height as Zach. um, yeah, he's always on adventures and doing shit. He's been going through a little bit of a slutty phase, uh, and he seems happy when I see him. Um, I think he's happier now that I'm safe. I think he was worried about me. I think my entire family was worried about me. Yeah, he was a little petty for a while, not worried about me so much as spiteful about, he felt like I left him for Destin. But the truth is Destin was just the thing that finally made me realize that the relationship was never going to work. It was a coincidence that I got with Destin afterwards, but I understand why he felt that way. And I'm just glad that everything's okay now. But you know, with my family, everybody was worried about me the whole time because I had been living from July 8th to September 26th. I was living, actually it was the 29th, but the last 3 days were after I was chased out of the house. So 26th is the last time I was in that house. I was living there from July 8th to September 26th. That was my home. And during that time, my family didn't know if they could be completely transparent with me about how worried they were. And, you know, my grandma, everybody, when they found out that Destin broke up with me, they were all cheering. They were so excited. Um, and then they realized, wait a minute, he's still there. Maybe we should be worried. And then they kept getting more updates, and they were like, wait a minute, there's a gun. What's happening? And then it was like their worst fears realized. But here I am, anyway. So, not actually their worst fears. I could have died, and I'm alive, so that's enough. Um, but yeah. Um, I was concerned too. I texted you asking if you were safe. I don't remember that, but I have your texts, so I can see when that was. Um, anyway, I'll take your word for it. I just don't remember when you said that. Um, why am I on the floor? Yeah, I'd rather be on the floor, actually. So, I'm not going to go for too much longer. It's already 50 minutes in. Um, I just I just want to make sure that I haven't forgotten anything. I didn't give any spoilers of the trilogy. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to be working on that, and it's going to be long. I'm going to take my time with it. I really want it to be a novel. Like, I don't want to do like some brief, here's a summary version. I want to really take my time getting into the nitty gritty of this story and make sure that it is at its best, its absolute best. Um, and that'll be so satisfying because it'll finally give me some credibility, you know? Like, I don't want to just be someone who hasn't done anything, who has all these ambitions and no one knows if they should take him seriously or not because no one's seen what I'm capable of. I want to be someone whose reputation precedes him, and that comes with work. You don't get to skip the work. That should be the biggest takeaway, too, from this video. You can't cheat in life. You don't get to level jump. You don't get to get a reward without the work. And if you try, it requires you to step on other people. And that always comes with karma and consequences because you are up on a pedestal that is fragile and temporary and dependent on you keeping secrets. And what happens when those secrets are exposed? Everything comes crashing down. So you better be careful. Keep your integrity in check. That is not something that people like Destin do, because everything they do is through manipulation. They don't expose themselves. They're not vulnerable. They don't take the risk of fighting a fight they're not sure they can win. You know, I mean, even the fact that he had a gun, like, that is someone who needs to rig fights in their favor because they don't trust that they would win if it was actually a fair fight. So, yeah, people like that are all over the place. They're everywhere, truly. It's an infestation, but it's not helpful to bully them, demonize them. Where we should be focusing always is not on other people, it's on ourselves. So rather than worrying about somebody else's karma or what they have going on, you focus on keeping your side of the street clean, stay in your lane, and keep going where you're going. And sometimes where you're going will involve helping other people, but you have to know what is yours to work with and what is not your business. Stay out of that, stay away from that. A lot of people don't do that. People get themselves involved in business that isn't theirs, and then they wonder why, you know, there's no prosperity, because what they're doing is essentially enabling people, you know, by getting involved in their business. So, you know, just make sure that you're doing your thing, and I'll keep doing my thing. And right now, what I feel compelled to do is to write that trilogy. Now, I'm not writing a whole trilogy, because that's too much. Just an untold story for now. We'll go from there. I'm going to get that written. I'm going to find a publisher, just one step at a time. First step is just having something, having it written. And that is not going to be easy. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to require a lot of revisions and edits and go and hold on, let me go back. And it's an overwhelming process. It's a big endeavor I'm embarking on, and it might take me a while. But in the meantime, I'm also going to be, you know, looking for a job and something that I can bring, you know, income in the meantime. But working on that for sure and go from there. So I'm very excited. This is what I was intending to do when I was living with Destin, which, by the way, is 5 hours away from here. So I was very far from home, you know, on a whim because of that incident. My mom had to drive all the way there to get me. I felt horrible about that. I didn't want anybody to have to do that. Everything that happened that day was like the last thing that I wanted. But I'm just happy that I have people who are willing to drive there for me. Otherwise, I would have had to figure something else out. I would have had to, like, you know, use my credit card, which I wouldn't have had to pay off for like a month or two, and get like a hotel or an Uber. I would have had to take care of things myself and figure things out myself. And, you know, I probably could have even found somebody else. If I had gone online and tried meeting people, I could have found somebody else to live with in the meantime. But these are options that I would have been reduced to if I didn't have a family, you know? So I'm glad that I have a family, but I guess I'm saying this just to let them know that, like, you know, I didn't force them to do anything. They did it because they loved me and because they chose to. I was still just, living my life. Um, which I want to be able to do. I'm 24. I just turned 24 actually, a couple weeks ago. Um, I don't want to feel like I need anybody's permission to live my life, which was also a big part of the reason why I wanted to get out of my family house. I felt like a kid. I do feel like a kid living here, but I had a taste of being independent for a couple months, and I miss it. Um, I miss having someone to hold at night and being able to imagine my life with a partner, and that partner having a face and a name and not just an idea. Um, but I'm okay because I'm just focusing on my work for now. And I know that I am whole on my own. And that's all that matters. So let me catch up on comments again. As our First Lady has said, be best. Can I call when you are done? Absolutely not. I don't want to have another, like, when I end this, my voice is going to be so sore. I've already gone on for an hour, and when I end this, I'm going to go do something by myself in my room. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might play a video game, watch a movie, text random people, just chill. Phone call takes too much out of me, and that's what this is, basically. We've been talking this whole time. You realize you're my only viewer? Eh, like, it's just I can't talk to people for that long, not unless it's like a really really stimulating conversation with, like, there's got to be like a connection there, but if it's just like just to talk because you're bored or something, takes too much out of me. Sorry for the, like, being brutally honest. I'm just running out of energy for indulging people anymore. If people don't like brutal honesty, they can fuck off. Can I call when you are done? Yeah, tell that to the president. Baby steps, Greyhound bus. At least your parents let you live your life. Yeah, to an extent. I forgot. Coming from you. Um, coming from you, that actually means a lot. I forgot how bad your situation is with your parents. Um, you're right. I should not complain. I don't have a Britney Spears situation going on. Um, anyway, you can hold me. Okay, okay. Dude, I'm not reading that one out loud. Anyway, I yeah, I've just I know, LOL. Yeah. I've just been, like, really fed up lately with people, like, I mentioned, like, that Instagram stalker. That's what I'm gonna call him. I don't even want to give him a name because he was weirding me out. I knew him in person briefly. I knew him a year ago. We talked a year ago on Snapchat, and he found me again from a fake account or a new account without his name, and then didn't tell me who he was, and then eventually did, and then got weird with me again. And by weird, I mean, like, really emotionally manipulative and, like, guilt tripping and saying, like, weird, just very strange behavior. Um, and, like, sociopathic. Like, he only cares about himself. He showed no interest in me as a person. So I blocked him. And then he moved over to my Instagram and is, like, sending me texts over and over again and sending me, like, really just it's ridiculous. Um, so you know, I I just I don't know what to do about that. Um, he's been to my house. I mean, this was one time a year ago. He probably doesn't remember the address, but it just unnerves me that someone who is showing himself to be that mentally unstable knows where I live. So I don't want to escalate things. That's why I've just been ignoring him. If I block him on Instagram, what I'm afraid to do is make him feel like the only way to reach me is to come to my house. So he's contained on Instagram, as far as I'm concerned. um, but it's just weird. The spamming text, it's very weird. And I don't have it in me anymore. I can't pretend that, like, people just behave in ways that are just plain unacceptable. And honestly, it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the way that I feel, and the fact that the way I feel is allowed and valid. Um, People get pushy when they want things. I've had a lot of people do this, and I've had to learn how to just set boundaries and just realize I'm allowed to just not want to do something or to feel how I actually feel. And nobody's entitled to my time, my thoughts, my energy, my attention, nothing. That's given freely. And it's meant to be mutually enjoyed when I'm having a conversation, when I'm doing anything. It's meant to be mutually enjoyed. And if somebody else wants something from me, but I don't want anything from them, that is allowed. That's valid. And it doesn't need to be excused or justified. And if they come at me with weird guilt trips and shit, they can fuck off. And that is hard for me to say because I am an extremely sensitive person and empathetic, and I hate saying anything that's harsh or mean or rude to people, but I don't want to be a doormat for people who are entitled and manipulative. So, you know, the best way to see it is it's love, but it's like tough love. I'm teaching them that, they have to sometimes accept that the answer is no, you know, that sometimes boundaries exist, and sometimes if you want you're a little kid and you want your parents to give you dessert before dinner and they say no, even if there's no logical reason for it, even if it's just them, asserting their authority, um, sometimes you just have to say, you know what, that's their answer. And they're the ones who are clothing me, feeding me, taking care of me, regardless of their reason. If that's what they wish, if that's how they want to do it, I guess I just have to accept that. And there are people who grow up and they do accept that, and they learn as a kid that crying and throwing a temper tantrum and guilt tripping doesn't get them what they want. Then there are parents that overindulge, and they're like their kid starts crying and they're like, okay, okay, we'll give you what you want. And that creates adults that are emotionally volatile and manipulative and sociopathic, because they think that everything is always about how to get their way, and they don't learn to accept, that sometimes things aren't going to go their way and they have to be okay with that. That is a theme that is actually really important in the second book, the sequel to An Untold Story, The World Without. Because what is it? The world without what? It's an unanswered question. It's an incomplete sentence. The world without something. So the answer is it's the world without. You get to fill in the blank with whatever you think the world should have but doesn't have. And that's the thing. That's what it's about. It's about us wanting things to be a certain way, wanting the world to be a certain way, and feeling like the world is missing something. The world is a certain way that it shouldn't be. And everyone has a different opinion. Everyone thinks that this world is without something, but everyone has a different something that they think the world is missing. And it's about learning to live with that and just accept it and say it's okay. The world can be without this thing, and I can still have a place in it, and I can still go on because I don't always get what I want. And that is how we grow and mature, and that's life. So that is a theme in that book, and it's not spelled out exactly like I just said it, but it's it's just in the I mean, it's these stories don't need to spell anything out because they're so real and true to life. You feel them with the characters and the way that things happen. It's like I'm so proud of it, and I can't wait to share it and create it, and I'm ready. I think it's time to finally write these down. They've gone through enough development in my head. It's time to share them. So um yeah, ha have a good night, everybody who tuned in and who watched the replay. This kind of went all over the place, but I think the title ultimately sums it up. I knew that's generally what I was going to be talking about, is just my year, because I've been gone for a while, and what I've learned and what I'm thinking about. So I hope to continue doing live streams. If anybody would be interested in psychic readings, I can bring those back. I love giving readings and I love helping people and giving advice. So I can do psychic Q&As again. Um, I can do anything. So just let me know what kind of content you want from me, and I'm gonna probably just post content anyway, just if I feel like talking about something. Um, Thank you for tuning in, and have a good night, or whatever time it is that you're watching this. Bye.